Hi everybody, this is Greg Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the Daily Critique. Today's image was submitted by Yu Chow, who's an intermediate photographer from Indiana. Yu Chow took a trip to visit his father and photographed this little boy on the trip. This is the son of a woman that works with his dad, and he said that the boy was very tentative in the process of creating this image at the beginning of the process, and Yu Chow kept working, was able to come in close and make this portrait. He said the eyes were very important to him. He did some Photoshop work where he brought the face up some more. Don't know the camera body here, but Yu Chow used a Nikkor 50mm f1.8 lens stop down to f5.6 and exposed the file for 1/80th of a second. If the eyes are a main subject here, then Yu Chow has hit a home run. The boy has a beautiful face and beautiful eyes, so he's got a great subject to work with if we're trying to show eyes. But there are a lot of other things to me that are really working in terms of making the eyes a very powerful part of this photograph. One is quality of light. You not only have a great quantity of light in the eyes, you get this feeling of a sparkling, very luminous quality of light. This almost looks like a big room with a bunch of windows, and you've got kind of an overall feeling of gorgeous catch light in the top half of the eyes, but it's sort of made up of multiple catch lights, and that creates this very sort of luminous, kind of sparkling feeling, very, very powerful for us as the viewer to see that. And the same quality of light is creating such a great feeling of form on the boy's face. You've got this really beautiful specular highlight here, almost a what would look like a really beautifully done kicker light effect right there on the top of the head. Really beautiful accent light effect here, and then a nice flow of light from high to low that's creating some really beautiful but subtle drop shadows. It's creating a lot of form and helping the lower mask of the face to separate. So stunning quality of light. The other thing I'm enjoying here, just in terms of the eyes being very visually powerful here, is the gesture. Even though Yu Chow's done a great job here sort of getting past the initial resistance so that he can take the picture at all, the little boy is still resisting this, and you can tell from the body language. The head is straight up and down and the eyes are looking straight out, and that's a bit of body language that we use when we're still sort of being threatened in our space. It's a little bit or maybe a lot confrontational, just depending on the situation. And so that makes this very palpable for us as the viewer in terms of the expression and gesture itself, carrying a lot of power at the level of the eyes. I'll just go ahead and say right now that one of the other things that makes this expression so dead on the level, sort of staring us down, very powerful, is the out of focus adult here. It's easy to imagine this is his mom after hearing the backstory, but she's smiling. You get that right away in the eyes and in the mouth. And so this adds another level of emotional depth to the image, sort of confrontational, maybe tentative or not comfortable, and then happy, child, adult, sort of looking over the shoulder, maybe caretaker kind of feeling. That's very powerful. The way depth of field has been managed here, very powerful. The combination of Yu Chow being very close here, and to fill the frame with a face with a 50mm lens, you're going to have to be super close. When you combine that with the aperture of f5.6, you have a lot of depth of field right here at the level of the face. So everything on the face is sharp, but then a nice fall off of focus to the background that's helping to simplify pretty complicated background. That's where I start to think about perfect world improvement for this image. The background, even though I love this from a storytelling standpoint, is a little bit out of balance with the main subject. Why do I say that? For two reasons. When I look at the main subject, from a shape standpoint, if I'm starting to think about unity based on rhythm, you just get hit over the head with the idea of circle as a visual design element. And it plays out in a lot of other places in half circles, but because of the pupil and the iris of the eye, you just get this real strong sense of circle that sets up. You have two more circles in the background that are super high contrast, almost as high contrast as the eyes, right here and right here. But then they don't finish and they're imperfect. You've got this sort of dipsy doodle here that really starts to, for me, create a little bit of a distraction. And you have a circle that's almost perfect and it starts and then it gets chopped off and gets on tangent with the face. And I'd like to round those things off if you were open to changing the editorial content of the image, and also create a little bit more balance, coming in here and having some dark value that pushes in. Same thing over here, a little bit more of a frame that's balanced from left to right here, and then just creating more balance at the level of rhythm with these ideas in the image. And so here's a layer where I did all that work cloning, and I did that work pretty rough, you can tell, but I also knew that I was going to come in and add a lens blur so that I didn't have to do that work in the background perfect. That's what's so nice about starting off in the first place with a flow of focus. It's much easier on a shot like this to blur the background if it's already blurred to begin with. It's easy to sort of lean on it. Very difficult if everything's sharp, just trying to start to try and create a realistic kind of lens blur effect from a retouching standpoint. There's the cloning, there's the blurring, and then coming in and creating a curves layer. I could have done this a lot of different ways to come in and darken the shirt, darken the frame, and darken some other areas to really try and make the eyes the highest contrast thing that really comes forward. The shirt's packing a lot of visual weight right now, and so is this part of the image. So here's the curves layer where I did that work. I think you could take it even further than that. Here's where we started. Here's where we ended up. A couple of other things I'll mention here at the end. One is I definitely could see a variation if you were to shoot and then stop and look for a second, turn the boy opposite way. What do I mean by that? This shoulder back here is forward. He's actually turned 3/4 this way, where the ear is over here. That way the ear doesn't get up on the face here, and the ear can actually do a nice job of balancing on the diagonal. Her face, his face, and then his ear, and he's looking this way. I'm not saying that would work. That's just something I think about when I look at this. And something else that I think about will really change the way we manage this in Photoshop. But you know, what I would call an unconventional crop, more of a cinematic crop, where you come in and you do something like this. Then I would want to get rid of this circle right here and just darken the whole corner down. Right here, and I might even want to come in on the crop here. It's so tempting to get the top of the room, and a lot of times getting the top of the room makes your life a lot more complicated, and a lot of times it's just more powerful for the viewer to fill in the gap, to get rid of things that are not about your main subject, and trust the viewer to fill this information in. And because they're filling it in their mind, it's not something from a visual design point that you have to deal with. Having said all that, it's a stunning portrait without doing one thing to it. I want to say a huge thank you to Yu Chow for submitting the image. Big apology to you, Yu Chow. I probably mangled the pronunciation of your name. I Googled it and tried to find the pronunciation online because I don't. People's names are, you know, to me it's almost like a sacred kind of thing. And so sorry if I did that. I did the best that I could. Thanks a lot for submitting the image. Beautiful image. Hope to see you again real soon on the Mindful Eyes Daily Critique.